Right now, I don't have any policies defined that are denying logons. The logon denies are the part of the user rights assignment group policy that Authlet uses to tell computers that they should be blocking one factor for the Authlet users. So this policy is empty because this is a brand new domain. So in this case, it's an easy decision. I don't have anything to collide with, so I can just say create group policy, and it will load the appropriate Authlet group policy into the root and link it there. Now, if I say check group policy, it will run the same check as before, but tell me the new result. Okay, now we see that the policies are defined and we've got green lines instead of the former yellow lines, saying that there were no denies defined. So what does it actually mean? Let's take a look at this, what it has done for us in group policy, because you'll need to understand this enough in certain cases to see if it needs to be changed. Although the defaults are designed to be very conservative and only affect Authlet users. So at the root, we have created a new policy. All of these user rights assignment denies will be applied in this computer policy. And the deny says, if the user is in the Authlet group and they have not done two-factor, then do not let them log in. So despite the fact that this is applied at the root, it will only impact Authlet users, as only Authlet users will ever have this group, and therefore only those will get denied. So this is a very simple configuration where we want to apply this everywhere, but not completely entirely everywhere. There is another slight eccentricity to this, which is worthy of note, which is that domain controllers will have network deny defined as blank. So instead of having Authlet one-factor tag deny like the other one, this is defined as nothing. And the reason that is the case is so domain controllers, if we do a model to see what the OU will actually have, this OU will have the 4 denies inherited from the root, and then the blank deny defined locally in the computer policy. The purpose of this is I want to allow one-factor network access to domain controllers, because things like group policy and password changes and accessing the sysvol and other important operations all need to continue to work even for Authlet users. So I don't want to deny one-factor access to the network on DCs. So this the create group policy script is smart enough to do both of those things, create the root and then make sure the domain controller's policy doesn't block network. So these greens mean both of those things are true and done. Now, there are certain cases where the policy script is not smart enough to do the right thing. And for example, if I have an Exchange server, I don't want to do a network deny for that either, because that would break your active sync mailboxes. You can't be entering a one-time code every time your phone goes to synchronize email. So we have to exempt Exchange servers from doing network deny. So let's imagine that I have an Exchange server in my lab. I don't, but let's pretend that I do, and it's in this OU called Exchange. I'm going to make a policy by hand that will do an allow. Even though I'm calling it allow, really I'm overruling the deny. So the same way that the domain controller's policy did, I'm going to do that here. I'll show you by manually going into the user rights assignment section, defining deny access to network, but leaving the list empty. So now if I do a model of this Exchange OU, where we are pretending that I have Exchange servers, we'll see that the result is similar to what happened with the domain controllers. Under user rights assignment, we will have 4 inherited denies from the root and then 1 empty one defined locally here by my new policy. This is so active sync can work even for Authlet users without having any problems. If your Authlet users will never have email boxes, then you don't have to do this exception, but otherwise you should. And this is, again, assuming your Exchange servers are in this OU. If they're somewhere else like the computer's container, then you need to move them to somewhere that you can apply a specialized group policy to them. Okay, so now that I made that manual change, let's do this check again, and I'll show you how this affects the graph output because you'll want to understand the nature of this. So you'll see everything is green, but now I've got another OU listed here, my new Exchange OU that I created for the Exchange server. And you'll see I've got a yellow line in here that says, hey, just so you know, network access is not being denied. That's why it's yellow, and it's not being denied because of this policy, which is the one that I just manually created. So as far as the script is concerned, this is a defect that should be corrected, but really we know that I just did this on purpose, and so this is okay. The script isn't there to tell you that you have to do things a certain way, but it's there to help you assess your policy. So in that spirit, let's take another bit of complexity that you'll probably have some of in your domain. Let's make an OU. I'm going to make an OU called inherit blocked and actually do that. I'm going to say inheritance is blocked. So now if I run the script again, it's going to tell me that there's an entire OU where there's no enforcement, there's no denies. And it's painted this OU blue to signify the inheritance is blocked so you can visually see it. And it'll tell you that there's nothing linked under here. Even under the inheritance blocking, you probably want to do your authlight block too. Even if you have reasons to block other policies, it's most likely that you actually want to have the authlight rule still under there. So I manually linked it, and I can run this check again, and it'll say that's fine. I've still got my blue, but underneath it, everything is happy green. Okay, but what if you've got a lot of inheritance blocked? So I'm going to delete this link here. What if you've got a whole ton of these, and like 20 or 50 or 100, and you don't want to manually link that? Group policy has the ability to do an enforce where it would punch through the inheritance blocks, but I don't like to use those for a variety of reasons. It messes up the ordering of group policy and causes a lot of other strife. So we've got the ability to do script, so I'm just going to use a script. You can use in the authlight tool a script called apply policy everywhere. And assuming that this is your policy name, you don't need to supply an additional argument. But if you have a different policy name you want to apply, you can put that name here. And what this will do is walk through all of your OUs and make sure that each one of them has the policy applied underneath it so that all of your blue inheritance blocks will have it. So before I run this, let me just show you, I've reverted my inheritance block. So I've got my yellow warnings here again. So now if I say apply policy everywhere, it'll walk the OUs and say, okay, I've applied this policy under this OU. Fine. So if I run the check again, now we're back to happy greens everywhere. So it has done that link. The same thing that I did manually, it has now done this. So if I refresh, it'll show me here. So these are tools you can use to automate some portions of this and some reasons why you might want to do exceptions. So now we've got all of the inheritance done. So the domain understands how to enforce two-factor